Hello, Illumineers. It is time to take a rest from your quest and check on in to the Lore Keeper's Inn. I'm your host, Katie, and today we have officially made it to episode 6 of the Ultimate Guide to Limited for Disney Lorcana's Archazia Island. So today we're covering Steel. There's 24 cards that we're going to cover today. We're going to rate them on a scale of 1 to 5, and you might say, well, what does a scale of 1 to 5 look like? So our scale of 1 to 5 is going to start with 5 stars, which is going to be, you're pretty much including it no matter what. You don't have to worry about what your other cards are. They're going to be probably, it's a good card no matter what you got, basically, which then takes us to 4 stars rather. So 4 stars is going to be something where you're likely going to include it. It's something where it's pretty good. There might not be the synergies you need. You might have something a little bit better that edges it out, but you're probably going to include a 4 star. We have 3 stars, which that is going to be something that's conditional. I like to say it's a 50-50, and it's not because we can't decide whether it's good or not. It's just going to be, does it work with the cards that you know you want to keep? Sometimes there's going to be cards that are going to make those cards better or worse. So really 3 stars is just, it's going to depend on what you pull in the deck that you're building. We have 2 stars, which is conditionally include. It's not a never. You might include it. You might include it because you need to. You might include it because you got very lucky and you ended up getting some other cards that make it actually pretty good. You might include it because you truly just need to get to 40 cards. So that's going to be 2 stars. It's not a no, but it's probably a no. And then we get 1 star, which is no. Put it underneath your playmat, hide it, throw it in your bag. Maybe if it's like a really cool legendary that's a 1 star, you could show your table and then be like, all right, but I'm not playing that. But yeah, 1 star, it's a pretty much a no. You still can though. I don't control you. So 1 star is just what I would personally never put in my deck. So we're going to jump right into the cards, and our first card here is Dr. Calico, Green-Eyed Man. He is a 4-cost inkable. He is a 3/4 that quests for 1, and he has an ability of You're Beginning to Irk Me. While this character has no damage, he gains resist +2. So I think in a set, I've said this many times, but in a set with limited removal, things like resist, support, challenger is going to matter a lot more because you're going to be able to outpace your opponent's characters. So the resist ultimately is only going to last while he has no damage, but that means that people are going to have to prioritize using some of their heavy swingers towards Mr. Calico, who, the more I look at him, I thought his nose was his upper lip, but his upper lip appears to be not his nose. So that's just tangential. Either way, a card like this, I am rating at 4 stars, purely based on that resist ability, that it's not something you can take out easily. And anytime something is challenging it, it's taking 3 damage. So you're getting a lot of value out of him and potentially causing a little bit of frustration for your opponent as you either quest or potentially you're challenging into something that only has 2 strength. So you're challenging into something where you are not taking any damage at all. So lots of versatility with him, like him a lot. Next up, we have Akela, the Wolf Pack Elder. I don't know where this wolf is from, and that's okay. Brother Bear or Jungle Book. I'm going to go with Brother Bear based on the northern climes, it looks like. But she is a 2 inkable. She's a 3/2, quest for 1. And vanilla. That's not an insult. Vanilla's good. Vanilla fills out curves. She survives challenging about 8 out of the 13 1 costs. She survives challenging. She could be good in the sense that because she is going to survive anything with a 1 toughness, and then also she can swing for 3, so something that is a 1/3 she'll be able to challenge into and survive. I've been saying I'm sorry, I don't know. But either way, I'm rating this a 3 star because I do think there is some value in her stats, and it is something you'll conditionally include based on what other cards you have in your curve. Moving on, we have Helga Sinclair, Tough as Nails. She is a 2 uninkable. Her stats are 0/4, and she quests for 1, and she has Challenger +3. She also has an ability which is Quick Reflexes. During your turn, this character gains Evasive. So we've mentioned a few times that there are 13 evasives in this set. So it's not something where you absolutely need her, but anytime you have something that can deal with evasives, that's quite nice. Her downside is that she is going to, it's the fact that if someone challenges into her, she does no damage. But she can swing for 3, and then she has that 4 toughness. So I put her at a 3 star just because I don't know, she's not an instant include, but she is something I'm likely to include just because I do like her stat line, especially at a 2 cost. But the fact that she's uninkable makes it where I get a little wary, and I'm putting it in my definite maybe category after I start filling in all the 4 and 5 stars that I know I'm going to keep. But we have Bolt here. Bolt is a 2 inkable headstrong dog. His stats are 1-3, and his ability is there's no turning back. Whenever this character quests, if he has no damage, you may draw a card. Then choose and discard a card. And he quests for 1. There is limited card draw in this set. I mean, there are a few cards we've gone over where you can draw cards. The problem is it's a choose, draw, and then discard a card. So you are altering your hand a little bit, but he also has to have no damage. Because it's very conditional, I'm putting him at a 3-star. Card draw is very important. So if you can fit him in, I think it's nice. But it is a character that he's not going to be able to challenge for a lot. You're not going to be challenging with him because you don't want him to have damage on him. You need him to quest, not challenge. And then all it takes is this 1 point of damage, and suddenly that ability goes away. And it's not true card draw. It's more like that Mulan ability that we're going to talk about where you're drawing and discarding a card. So I put him at 3 stars. I might include him, I might not, but it just is going to depend again. This one, it's, you know, he's a mascot of Lorcana, whether you love him or not. He's a 1-cost inkable, 2/2, quest for 1. Once again, it's a vanilla, super duper average. Not a lot to say about it other than I'm rating it at 2 stars because you might end up including it just because, you know, he's inkable, he's a 1-drop. Those are nice things, but he's certainly not going to impress anyone based on anything other than how cool he looks. It's a very, very, very cool hat. So we have a Raya card here. Raya is a 3-cost inkable. She's Guidance Seeker with stats of 1-4 that quests for 2, and her ability is a greater purpose. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, this character gains resist +1 until the start of your next turn. So this is a lot of things I love here. We've got the stat line of 1-4, which makes her pretty durable. She's questing for 2, and she has that ability of gaining resist, which, like I mentioned, resist is going to be pretty important. So those 2 things together, the 3 things of strength and lore count and resist, made me rate her a 4-star, just because I really think you can get a lot of value out of those things combined, where she can hang around for hopefully a couple turns and be a menace. She's not dealing a lot of damage, but she's hanging around, which I love a card that can just hang around and quest. From the same movie, we have Tuk Tuk. Tuk Tuk is a 2-cost uninkable. So he's a 0-1, quest for 1, and he's a bodyguard. But he's not just any bodyguard. He's a bodyguard with resist too. So I love a good bodyguard. There's only 6 bodyguards, and he's a bodyguard with resist. So he's not something that you can easily lean into, but you have to, ultimately. This is something where you need to deal with him, because ultimately, while Tuk Tuk himself is not super cool or scary, he is blocking you from getting to some juicier characters you might have. Knowing all of that, I did put him at a 4-star rating, because I really think he could help be the pace card between you and another card that you're trying to do much cooler things with. We have Fazu, War Hero, 3-cost inkable, 2/3 stats, and quest for 1. His ability reads training exercises whenever one of your character challenges another character. If it's a second challenge this turn, gain 3 lore. So I love a good lore boost. It can be a difference maker in a game, and 3 lore is pretty impressive. So you are going to be a little bit on the offense here. I tend to love to be the person that just quests and quests and quests. And with this, you do need to challenge, take advantage of it. But if you've got characters with resist, you've got characters with challenge, then having it be the second challenge is something you'll be able to pull off. So I did rank him at a 4-cost, because I really do think that if you even use him just once, that 3 lore is a very nice boost. It does have to be on your turn, essentially, because it's your character challenging. But as long as you can fire him off once, you do get that 3 lore. It is something where you're going to be able to do some aggressive maneuvers and then still get that lore gain, even though you didn't do questing, you did challenging. So if you build your deck right, you're going to have characters that survive these challenges, and then also you get that 3 lore gain, maybe even twice if you're lucky. So we have Razul, who's a menacing guard that is a 2 inkable, 1/3. And when you play this character, if you have a character named Jafar in play, you may banish chosen item. So in this set, we have but 2 Jafars. So you're definitely not playing this card based on that ability alone. And there's only 14 items. So it's not a super great card. You might include him just because you're like, well, I really like getting rid of items, but once again, you probably don't have Jafar. It's a super narrow window of use. So I did put him at 2 stars because he is inkable. You might include him for whatever reason if you magically get that synergy, but It's just not a great card knowing that there's many conditions, or not many, but there's a couple conditions to meet in order for him to really be a useful card on his own. But speaking of Jafar, here's one right now. We have Jafar, who is a 3-cost Inkable, who is an aspiring ruler with a 3/2 stat line, quest for 2, and his ability is That's Better. When you play this character, chosen character gains Challenger +2 this turn. So I like his lore and I like his strength, but the one-time effect and his willpower kind of then make him a little less impressive because of the fact that it's a one-time ability and his stat lines on its own aren't super amazing, and he's probably going to be challenged into just once. I did put him at 3 stars. I'm conditionally including him, but he is something that there is going to be some use in him being played. It's just I don't know if it's an auto include on my part. So we have TikTok Relentless Crocodile. He is a 5-cost Inkable with a 5/6 stat line, so he's a big boy. And his ability is Looking for Lunch. During your turn, this character gains evasive while a pirate character is in play. He does quest for 1, but it is important to note that there are only 9 pirates in this set. So the synergy there is going to be pretty minimal as far as being able to fire off that compatibility. That being said, he's a big body and he swings for a lot and he absorbs a lot. So I'm putting him at 3 stars because I will likely like to have something like this in my deck to deal with my opponent's characters. Yeah, it's cool to always have evasive and to quest for more, but a big body cannot be discounted, especially in the end game where you're trying to just outpace your opponent. So we have Kakamora, Band of Pirates. So this is just several Kakamoras. So it sounds like the plural of Kakamora is Kakamora. They are a 4-cost Inkable. They're 1/6 that quest for 1, and their ability is Showboating. While you have another pirate character in play, this character gains Challenger +3. Another issue, there's only 9 pirates, so he's likely just to be, I keep saying this group of coconuts are likely to just be a 1/6 that quests for 1. So it's just kind of a less good Moana, who's a 3-cost 1/6. So not terrible, but knowing that there are better cards, I put this at a 2-star. I'm only including it if I absolutely have to. I don't have other options. Or maybe I just somehow pulled all 6 pirates, or rather all 9 pirates that are in this set. We have the Mulan that I alluded to earlier. So Mulan is a 1-cost Inkable Disguised Soldier with a stat line of 2/1 that quests for 1, and her ability is Where Do I Sign In? When you play this character, you may draw a card and then choose and discard a card. Now, normally I don't love a 2/1 stat line because she can only be challenged once, but the ability to kind of get like a soft mulligan after your initial draw can be really nice. So on your first turn, you're able to basically draw a card, then you're going to, off of her, draw a card and then discard a card. So if you got a card that you're like, ooh, I did not want this in my opening hand, it's uninkable, it's cost 7, she can help you get your hand back to a better state. So knowing that she can help get you back on track to a better play line, I did rank her at 4 stars, and she's something where I'm probably going to include most of the time because the only downside is really her willpower. Otherwise, she's a good card to keep in your hand to get your play lines where you want it to be. So we have Orville here, and it always throws me off because whenever I see something flying, I'm like, so it must have evasive. But no. Orville is an Albatross Air, 3-cost, Inkable, 4/3 stats that quest for 1 with the ability of Welcome Aboard, folks. During your turn, while you have a character named Miss Bianca or Bernard in play, this character gains evasive. So he does have conditional evasive, but there's only 1 Bianca in the set and no Bernard. So do not play him based on that synergy. I do like having a 4/3 body. That's not nothing. But that being said, I did put this at 2 star just because it's a super narrow ability. Likely there's going to be characters that are going to be a little bit more valuable to use in your 3 lore count spot. Now, I did say there's only 1 Bianca. Here she is. She's a 6-cost Inkable, Miss Bianca, Unwavering Agent, who is a 5/5 that quests for 1. If you have an ally character in play, you pay 2 less to play this character. So the next question is, well, how many allies are in this set? And I counted, there are 60. So if you have a lot of allies, then this card becomes a little bit better. Still not super great. Then she's a 4-cost. So she's going to still be a 2-star card for me. And I only put it that way because I'm not building an ally deck because of her. This is a card I include because I'm like, well, I guess I do have a lot of allies. And now she is a 4-cost 5/5, which is pretty good. She's a 2-star because it's purely based on every other card I pick. I might come back and then include her in my deck. So we have Mufasa. Is a 4-cost inkable, respected king, 4/4 stat line, quest for 1. So this is a pretty big body, medium body. I put big-ish body. Vanilla cardinal ability, just questing for 1. So I did put him at 2-star. It's not a no, but once again, it's going in my, basically I'm going to build my deck and see what room I have and see if maybe I need to include him. But he's definitely one that I would keep in the 2-star pile and not use him unless I need to. Now we have Aladdin here. He is a 4-cost, uninkable research assistant, 2/4 stat line and quest for 2. He has 2 abilities. The first one is Helping Hand. Whenever this character quests, you may play an ally character 3 cost or less for free. And then you also have Put in the Effort. While this character is exerted, your ally characters get +1 strength. So I did mention there's 60 allies, which that actually makes it a little bit better because he's a better statted card, and the fact that you might be able to play an ally for free, this made it a 3-star for me because once again, you're going to look at the cards that you chose first, your first line of cards and your second, and then once you've kind of built 50% of your deck, you're going through, you're looking, well, how many of them are allies? And at that point, I may include him based on, do I have room for the uninkable, and do I have enough allies where I think it is worth it for me? Now you might say, well, how many would it be worth it? I don't know. That's tough to say. I mean, definitely at least like 10. I don't know. I'd want a lot of allies just because otherwise he's just an okay card. And it's that ally synergy that really is going to be beneficial. So I'm also looking at how many allies that I've already included that cost 3 or less, because that's specifically who he's helping the most with his ability. This is an exciting card here. It's a legendary, and it's kind of rare that there's a legendary that's good in limited, because legendaries usually have a powerful effect, but you have to meet certain conditions. But this one is a 5-cost inkable Bagheera Guardian Jaguar, who is a 4/3 bodyguard, quest for 2, an ability, You've Got to Be Brave. During an opponent's turn, when this character is banished, deal 2 damage to each opposing character. So I like this for a few reasons. So bodyguard, love that. And because he's a bodyguard, suddenly your opponent pretty much can't ignore him, and they're very unlikely to have an ability that can get rid of him using straight removal, because there's only, like we mentioned, there's only one card that says just remove a chosen character, and it's very expensive, 7 ink. And then do they have that card? So they're probably going to have to challenge into him, and then you're basically he's questing for 2, being a bodyguard, and then setting off a grab your sword for free, which is dealing that 2 damage to all your opponents. So he is a 5-star for me. He is one that I absolutely hope I pull, putting in my deck. I would love having this bodyguard that just kind of turns into a song at the end that deals damage to my opponents, especially because dealing damage is very difficult in this set with the limited amount of actions and songs. Now we have Gontu. You know him, you love him. He's a big shark man, and he's not a villain. I always thought he was, but he is just a storyborn alien captain. 4 costs, uninkable, 2/4 stats. He quests for 1, and he has 2 abilities. The first one is Close All Channels. When you play this character, characters can't exert to sing songs until the start of your next turn. And don't get any ideas. Each character plays 2 more to play actions or items. This doesn't apply to singing songs. But we mentioned there are 5 songs in this set. There are more items than that. We have 14 items. You think I'd have it memorized by now, but there's 14 items. So you start to think, is this really worth it? Am I including this card just to thwart my opponent? He's only questing for 1. His stats aren't super good. He's uninkable. The long answer is I put him at 1-star because the items are fairly cheap in this set as well. All the items cost 3 or less. So knowing that all the items cost 3 or less, then is putting that tax on it. You're not putting that tax on until turn 4, which might be turn 5 for them if you went second. So either way, it's not seeming like a super valuable card. I put him at 1-star just because it's just a lot of conditions to meet for value that I don't see off the bat. But he's super cool card, and I'd be happy if I pulled him. I'm just not putting him in my deck. Speaking of super cool cards that I'd be excited to pull but not putting in my deck, we have Mickey Mouse, who is a 2-cost, uninkable inspirational warrior. He is a 1/1, and he quests for 1, and his ability is Stirring Spirit. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may play a character for free. But let's think about it a little bit here. You have to banish the character with him, which means you have to be able, the math has to work out where you're dealing damage to a character where it doesn't banish your character, because you don't want to go all in just to play a character for free, but you have to leave 1 damage left, and then that damage is going to he's a 1, so he's not going to survive. So I put them at 2 costs just because I don't know. Maybe you're really good at math and you're like, I'm going to be able to sequence this. I'm going to build the perfect curve where it's going to work out. You don't know your opponent's curve, so I don't know how you're doing that part. But I did put him at a 2-star just because I can't think of any scenario I would put him in. The only person I'd recommend this for is somebody that's like, I love gambling, but otherwise he'd pretty much be a 1-star. But I did put him at 2 because he's Mickey Mouse, and I think just felt guilty putting him at 1-star. So we are moving along here to an action, and it's the most important action in the entire game. Why? Because I revealed it, and so I have a deep, very deep emotional attachment to this. But we have Restoring Atlantis. So this is an action that is a 5-cost, uninkable, that reads, your characters can't be challenged until the start of your next turn. So I think this is a very valuable tempo card. I said this in my reveal that in Limited, when you have basically a race where you're playing characters and you're kind of playing that delicate balance of, not wanting to challenge and lose your characters, so you're questing and you're basically trying to go wide often in Limited. Having a turn where you have made it where they likely don't have much, if any, removal, and they can't challenge your characters, then you get basically a bonus turn where you can do what you need to do, and then you have another turn where they can't be challenged, and they're essentially getting to probably survive that turn. I say probably because, there's a little bit removal, moving damage, rush suddenly, they can't rush into them, so it's very, 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 very small what they can do during that turn. So I did put this at 4-star because it is very valuable, especially if you're going on an aggro front. The only downside is that, the downsides are there. It is a 5-cost and it's uninkable. So you are spending your whole ink to do this, but it does buy you a turn. So you'd have to be very cautious knowing that you're building up to this. So that way you're making the most value out of it and you actually have things to protect that you want to survive a turn. You don't want to wipe your board and then have nothing to protect. Our next action here is Double Trouble. So this is a 2-cost inkable. Deal 1 damage to up to 2 chosen characters. I'm not a huge fan because of the minimal impact, but it's inkable. So that's why I put it at 50% because I don't know 100%. It's not an instant keep for me, but it is one where dealing damage is always pretty good. Being inkable is pretty good. And it might be something where, sometimes you're challenging, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't get that last 1 damage on there. Well, look at that. You can deal a damage to that one and even to another. So given that it can get you out of a pinch and it's kind of an improv card that is at its very worst, it's going to be ink. I did rank this a 3-star because I do see the use case for it. I wish it was more powerful. I wish it was, dealing 2 damage would be way cooler, but we don't have 2 damage. So 3 stars is a nice comfortable rating saying I'm very much considering it and I'm probably going to end up including it. Moving on to items, we have our last coil. This is Steel Coil, which is a 2 uninkable. Its ability is Metallic Flow. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may draw a card and then choose and discard a card. This is one, again, where it's a persistent effect, but you have to discard the card after you draw it. So you're starting this ability on turn 3. We do know that Limited is one where you're not usually able to get a ton of card draw, so you start getting to the point where you only have a few cards in hand. So it could be beneficial. I put it at 2 stars because it's definitely not an instant keep for me. The fact that it's uninkable, the fact that I don't know how much I'm going to love to be drawing and discarding instead of just straight up card draw, it's really going to depend on the rest of the cards I have. If I have enough card draw where doing this drawing and discarding isn't the worst thing, and it's a May, so you don't have to, but then why are you keeping something that you don't want to use? So that's why I put it at 2 stars. I'm definitely making sure that everything else is all set up and nice and pretty before I'm including a card like this. And then our last item for Steel is Training Staff. So this is a 2-cost inkable, and it is a Precision Strike ability where you exert this card, pay 1 ink, and chosen character gains Challenger +2 this turn. This one is a persistent effect, but I like it more because it's inkable. It is giving your characters Challenger multiple times. You do have to pay 1 ink, but if you already played this, it could be later in the game where this kind of helps tilt things in your favor. So because it can help outpace, that's why I feel pretty good putting it at 3 stars, because I'm going to put it in my maybe and see do I not have any challengers otherwise? But the fact that I can use this multiple times and use it to kind of outpace my opponent makes me like this card a lot more than I did Steel Coil. And with that, we finished all 6 of the regular inks. But the party is just getting started because we have 60 dual ink cards to rate next. I'm scared and excited because the dual ink cards are very interesting. They're very powerful. That's where the most 5 stars are coming from. We did get 1 5-star in this set, Bodyguard, Bagheera, but I really think they're cooking with the dual inks, especially for limited, because you're able to do some really powerful effects without the downside of having to pick just 2 inks for your deck. You get to pick any amount of ink you want right now in limited. So that video is coming up tomorrow. But in the meantime, comment below. Let me know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I like kind of hearing because I've learned that doing limited is a great way to check your own biases, and I have learned through doing this series and also playing. I played a 6-pack Chaos sealed on Friday, and I learned I have biases that I have a hard time shaking. So I like hearing about what other people prefer, what they don't prefer. So yes, make sure to comment below. Keep following along. 2 more videos, and then by the time that last video releases, it's the eve of release, and we're going to be on Archazia Island. We're all going to be there. So, as always, thank you for stopping by. There's always room at the inn. And if you don't know where to find us, just take the second star to the right exit and head straight on till morning.